Hi, I'm Deborah, and today I'm going to talk about 7 ways to help manage your social anxiety during the holidays. Social anxiety is something I'm pretty familiar with. Um, I am normally very self-confident, but in certain situations, especially gatherings where I don't know every single person, or I know a lot of people, but I don't know um, a lot of people well, or if you have social anxiety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You feel like, you're really uncomfortable. You feel like everyone's just looking at you and judging you and, mentally making fun of you. For me, these situations, I flash back to when I was a kid and I was really shy, but, I got invited to birthday parties just because like everyone in the whole class had to be invited, but I usually ended up just feeling incredibly awkward. So if you have social anxiety, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so then the holidays are the absolute worst time of the year because there are going to be parties and get-togethers, and so you can feel yourself stressing out and getting anxious just thinking about it. So the reason why you want to find a way to deal with your social anxiety is, and go to these gatherings is because the problem is if you just decline invitations, what you're doing is you're just feeding into that anxiety. So you're really making it worse because you're increasing the fear around the situation in your mind, and what you're going to do is you're not going to improve the situation with your social anxiety. So no one's saying you have to accept every single invitation that you get, but it's something where you really have to keep pushing against it, or what you're going to do is you're going to end up basically, just staying home and cutting yourself off from what could be some enjoyable situations. And it's like anything else. The more you practice, the more that the more you work on it, the better you'll get at it. So you definitely want to put yourself out there with these situations with the social gatherings and parties at the holidays. And I have 7 suggestions on how you can make the situation easier for yourself and actually have some more control over the situation. So one of the first ways you can control the situation to some extent is by volunteering to help out. So what that'll do is that'll take away some of that time where you're just standing around wondering who you should sit next to, who you should try to talk to, all that stuff. So this works whether it's a party at someone's house or whether it's a work party. So if it's a party at someone's house, you might, if you know the host well enough, you could say, I'd love to come, but I get really uncomfortable at parties. What would be great is if I could help in some way during the party or during a lot of the party. So, ask if you can come ahead of time and help prepare stuff, because then that gives you some comfort with the location, and then you're not walking into a room with tons of people because you've already been there from the beginning. If you have a holiday party coming up, one way I found that it helped for me was to volunteer for the holiday party committee. And that way I could, get comfortable with the whole idea, get comfortable with what was going to be going on during the party instead of being unpleasantly surprised at whatever activities or whatever there were going to be. And also then I'd end up signing up for things that would keep me busy. Like, for instance, one year I signed up to do the craft station, which we had people, for instance, making ornaments. And so I spent a lot of the time during the party showing people, helping people make ornaments. So that, that took care of the discomfort of that, especially comes up at work sometimes when you may not know people really well. The second thing you can do is prepare ahead of time for conversations. So one of the best things to do, obviously, is to ask people about themselves, because then they're talking. That takes up time. If you come up with some good questions and then do active listening and then have good follow-up questions, then you can keep the conversation going. And again, you're controlling that situation, and it makes things a lot easier on you. Don't ask open-ended questions like, how are you doing? Because the problem is that a lot of times people will just say fine, and then that's it, and that's the end of that conversation. So you don't want to ask things that are really vague like that. So one question you could ask if it's at someone's house is, how do you know the host? Or you could say, so do you have any exciting projects you're working on right now? Because most people have things that they're doing, if it's not at work, then they have something going on at home, or maybe their kids have something going on. So most people have something going on that they'd love to talk about. So I've linked to a couple articles below that have some good ideas for conversation starters and also conversation continuers. If your social anxiety is really bad, what you might want to do is actually role play and practice ahead of time with a friend or with your therapist if you're in therapy. One of the most important things is practice. Apparently, this is why Steve Jobs, and I know seems like non sequitur, but literally one of the reasons that Steve Jobs did these fantastic presentations was like practice, practice, practice. So the more you practice, the more comfortable you are, and then that comfort will really help a lot when you're actually in the conversational situation. So the third thing you want to do is avoid or cut down on alcohol or other legal and illegal substances to help you relax. The thing is that you may feel more relaxed, or you may feel more anxious, paradoxically, because you may be worried about losing control, being too relaxed and losing control. So the anxiety itself is possibly going to cause a problem. Maybe just have a small glass of wine or beer or something like that you nurse. But you definitely want to think twice about relying on anything relying on anything artificial to relax you. Number 4 is use a calming technique to relax you. So in other words, have something ready to calm yourself before the party. So either meditation or breathing techniques, or sound meditation is one of my favorites. So what you want to do is calm yourself down as much as possible right before the party. You probably know, if you suffer from any kind of anxiety disorder, that you have certain levels. So during the day or from day to day, you're going to go from, high level to a medium level to a low level, So what you want to do is you want to start out with the lowest possible level you can. So do whatever you usually use to get your anxiety down, do that right before the party. 5 is, if you have a friend who you can talk to about having social anxiety disorder, then maybe they can be kind of your support during the party. Talk to them and say, listen, I have social anxiety disorder. These situations are really tough for me. Could you try to stay by me as much as possible? Especially if this person is a really good conversationalist, then they can draw you into conversations so that you don't feel awkward just standing there. Because sometimes it's not enough just to have them be your support, because sometimes you can still feel kind of like a bump on a log, even if you have someone to stand next to you, and you can start getting anxious about, do I look weird just standing here saying nothing? So, if you have a friend like this who's going to be going, or is someone that you can bring to the party, then, talk to them and say, hey, you're my social anxiety buddy, and it would really be helpful if you could do this. So number 6 is be careful about the amount of sugar and caffeine that you have or that you consume at a party, at a social event. If you're anything like me, then those two things can really increase your anxiety. And most holiday party food is high in the sugar and fat and pretty low in the fiber. So what you might want to do is right before you go to the party, have something that's really high in fiber and filling that'll last for a few hours and help balance out the sugar. And also try to keep the caffeine to a minimum. Because this may not be the case with you, but for me and for a lot of people, those things, the sugar and the caffeine, can really increase our anxiety a lot, and to a very uncomfortable level. 7 is take a break when you need to, preferably outside. So what you want to do is get some fresh air. Take some time to use whatever calming technique you have. Breathe in some nice fresh air. Listen to some nature sounds or calming music that you might have on your phone. Just take some time to calm down, because if you can keep the normal anxiety level down, your usual anxiety, not social anxiety, then that'll definitely help with the social anxiety. So I hope those suggestions have been helpful. If they have, please consider giving this video a like and maybe subscribing. And if you can think of a way that you found that makes your social anxiety disorder better at parties and gatherings, then please leave it below. That would be great. Thanks for watching, and take care.